Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I am going to be talking about 5 things that you need to do as a foreign medical graduate prior to starting your residency in the United States. These are 5 important financial checklists that I think every international medical graduate should make sure that they complete to secure their financial footing in the United States of America. As you know, I'm an international medical graduate. I have gone through my training here, and I think that it's important for everybody who comes here and who trains here, especially because you don't have as much information about the system. So these are the 5 things I think you must do. The first thing is that I think you need to make sure that you take some time to read your contract. Make sure you understand the expectations. Make sure you understand what your job description is. And absolutely make sure that you do not breach your contract. This is your single most important asset at this time as a resident starting out in the United States of America. And there's some very specific things. For example, you need to look at what your institution's policy is on moonlighting, your institution's policy on days off, as well as your institution's policy on your visas. So you need to make sure that you really understand all of those things. Once you read and you understand your contract, you've really protected your most important asset. The next thing you want to do is, while you're young and you're able, you want to get on getting your disability insurance. So that's number 2. Once you understand your contract, you move on to getting your disability insurance. What your disability insurance is an insurance that you pay premiums into it every month. And if you ever become disabled, they will pay out some amount of money to you to help cover that period of disability. There is short-term disability and there's long-term disability insurance. A lot of employers will provide either a short-term disability insurance or a long-term disability, or both. So you should look into what your employer provides and get what they don't. Most importantly though is, if you're here in the US and you're planning to stay here after training, you do want to make sure that you get your own insurance separate from what your employer provides, so that even after you no longer work for that employer, you can still have your disability insurance. And the reason for doing this early is, number 1, you want to do it when you're young and healthy and you don't really have a lot of comorbid conditions that make you uninsurable or difficult to insure. You also will find out that a lot more people get disabled than die. So it's very likely that at some point over the course of your career, you might need access to some form of disability insurance. So you really do want to carry it. The third thing I want to mention about the disability insurance is that you should make sure you get your own occupation-specific disability insurance. So for example, I am a surgeon. So when I started out, I could have gotten a much cheaper disability insurance quote to just get a generic disability insurance. The problem with that though is that those type of policies do not pay out anything to you unless you're completely disabled and unable to practice any other job. However, by getting a occupation specific disability insurance like I did, if I were still able to practice another form of medicine or able to carry out another job, but for some reason I was in an accident or I become disabled and I'm unable to operate anymore as a surgeon, I would still get payout from the policy that I currently have. So your number 2 in your checklist is you want to get your own occupation specific disability insurance early in your career. Okay? The third thing you want to do is, if you have dependents, if you have people that rely on you for your income, or they rely on you as the primary caregiver of the home on your salary, then you want to go ahead and you want to get life insurance. So once you have your disability sorted, you want to go ahead and get life insurance as well. Again, it's good to get this when you're young and you don't really have a lot of comorbidities yet, and so that's why it's good to get that out of the way. The important thing to know about life insurance is you want to get term life insurance. At this point in your career, you do want to avoid whole life insurance. There are just very few people that whole life insurance is useful for at this stage in your career, and it's usually pretty expensive. So as a resident just starting out, don't let anyone sell you a whole life insurance. Just go ahead and get yourself a pretty decent term life insurance, and you should probably buy a rider that allows you to buy more as you earn more money. But if you get a term life insurance that is equivalent to about $1 or $2 million, you should be able to cover those premiums easily, and that should be sufficient for what you need. The fourth thing that I would advise you to do at this point is you want to really keep good financial habits. And one of the most important things to do is you want to start an emergency fund. The current recommendation by a lot of financial gurus is they will tell you that you want to keep somewhere between 3 to 6 months. Some people will say up to 12 months. My advice to you is you want to keep about 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. So you kind of work out how much money do you need to cover your fixed expenses, your rent, your electricity bill, things like that. And then your variable expenses, your groceries, things that you have to have, and you put that up in a budget and you calculate how much of that you spend every month. And then you figure out how much you need to keep you afloat if you were to lose your job or something was to happen, and you need to keep about 3 to 6 months of those living expenses as emergency fund. I will tell you that as a resident, you have a pretty secure job, especially if you're a categorical resident. It's really very unusual that you get fired without any pre-warning, or you get let go or things like that. So I would say for most residents, 3 months of living expenses should be quite sufficient. It might take you a while to get that amount in emergency fund, but you should be working up to that once you start your residency. The fifth thing that I would advise you to go ahead and do is go ahead and open up a Roth IRA. A Roth IRA is a type of retirement account that allows you to save post-tax money in it, and it compounds, and when it does come time for you to take the money out, it's completely tax-free to take the money out. This is a great idea because of a few reasons. The first thing is that it allows you to, again, start developing good financial habits, makes you start thinking about saving. But the second thing is that, you start to accrue a lot of good compounding interest right there. Your money starts to grow quite nicely. So even if you were only putting $25 in there every month or whatever, you will start to see that account grow quite nicely over the course of your residency, and for a long term after that. The other thing is that you probably will not be in as low a tax bracket as you are right now. Once you become an attendant, you're going to make a lot more money. So right now is the time to kind of put a lot more money into your post-tax advantaged account, which is your Roth IRA right now. There is a limit. Recording this in 2022, and the current limit for this year is $6,000. So if you're married, you can save $6,000, and your spouse can also save $6,000, as long as jointly you both do not make beyond the income limit. As a resident, you really don't have to worry that much about going over that. There are other things to consider as well. If you have kids, you may want to start considering putting some money away in college, into a college fund for them, or if you have employer matching for your pre-tax investment accounts like a 401k or a 403b, you might think of putting some money in there. But I would say start with doing these 5 things first before you kind of move on to those other things, because you do want to get your house in order before you start doing other things. Again, this is by no means an exhaustive list of the things to do, but as an IMG coming into this country, these are some of the things that I wished that I knew. And you just have to be careful out there, because there are a lot of people that will be willing to sell you things that you really don't need to be buying at this point in your career. But these 5 things are the things that you have to do, as you're starting out here in the United States as an international medical graduate.